You know the drill, folks. It's that time again to talk about the toys I wish I had as a kid. So, stick around. Hello friends and welcome to Days of Dorker Past. My name's Rob and in this episode we're going to talk about more toys I wish I had as a kid. Now this is the 7th time that I've broached this subject and you know what? It's an endless well. Just because I had endless disappointments as a kid, either it be financial, parents being jerks, what have you. So a lot of these toys have a backstory of how they slipped between my fingers, and other times they're just toys that I look back at now and wish I had growing up, or I wish I had now. So let's get things started with number 1 on the list, and that is Get Along Gang posable toys. I kind of feel creepy saying this now as a 42, 43, however old I am, dude, but these were actually called dress-up kids. These little posable toys, I'm going to call them action figures, because that's how I would have handled it. Anyway, these Get Along Gang action figures were about this big, and they were posable at the arms and the legs. They were made by Tomy in 1984, and a little backstory, Get Along Gang was based on greeting card characters, and they were a huge onslaught of cartoons, coloring books, toys, stuffed animals, what have you. They just threw everything at the wall, and what stuck, and what didn't, fell to the ground. It didn't last that long, but I think I've explained before in past videos that I was probably a furry as a kid, and I still love anthropomorphic animals. Now, I'm not dressing up and doing freaky stuff, but there's something that I instantly get drawn to with anthropomorphic animals. And these spoke to me as a kid. I had a couple of the stuffed animals, and they were yay big, and they were cool. They all came with plastic skates, and, you know, they were just cool toys. But these were something that I remember seeing but never got. And mind you, they had pretty much every size of toy, from little PVC figures to things this big that clipped on your backpack, to these figures, to the big stuffed animals. So they had all price points covered, all sizes covered, all types of toys covered. Now these action figures, they had different play sets that went along with them, but the main advertising point for these was you could change their clothes, and they had little underclothes underneath. Yeah, I know, creepy. Creepy because, you know, I'm a dude talking about it now, but anyway. I mean, I wanted Zipper Cat, he was the cool dude, the cat in the tracksuit. Montgomery Moose, he's awesome. And the beaver dude, I forget his name. I love those 3 dudes. Now, I don't remember really watching the cartoon, but I just remember the toys being everywhere. And like I said, with them being animals, that was just right up my alley. Now, again, this is something that I wish I had now, because I would proudly display them with all my other bric-a-brac everywhere around here. Anyway, let's get to number 2, and those are Chubbles. Released by Animal Fair in 1984, Chubbles were these little stuffed animals, again, I'm talking about stuffed animals, that had these cool cloaks on. And if you squeezed them, their eyes and nose lit up. Now, Animal Fair has come up in the past when I talked about that Bigfoot stuffed animal in, I think it was the Halloween episode. So, Animal Fair is just good at making freaky little stuffed animals. What appealed to me was the cloaks that they came in. These little fuzzballs with glowing eyes and noses had these really neat cloaks that just screamed fantasy to me. I mean, they could be a wizard, a rogue, those little freaky dudes from Phantasm, what have you. I remember when they came out, they seemed like they were everywhere. And they quickly disappeared, unfortunately. But at the time, this was cutting-edge technology. I mean, it was like glowworm. I mean, that was super popular. You squeeze it, it lit up. The same with these things. I mean, to have electronics jammed inside of a stuffed animal was the wave of the future. Number 3 on the list comes from Lego, and that is Fabuland. These were released in 1979 and ran all the way through the 80s, for the most part. Now, these little anthropomorphic animals, I guess, were supposed to appeal to kids somewhere in between Duplo and the main Lego line. And you have to remember, back in the day, Lego was nothing like it is nowadays. The only Lego set I ever got as a kid was just a big box of bricks and a book of how to make 101 things. There was no Star Wars or Marvel or DC or any of these awesome properties that they have now. It was all your imagination and all just whatever you wanted to make. I mean, of course they had sets of castles and spaceships, but with Fabuland, I mean, it was little characters, little animal people, and they had a whole bunch of different things. Vehicles and buildings and... like I said, with the Get Along Gang, this spoke to me. I always wanted them. I never got them. I mean, I think it was just for the simple fact of it was Lego. And I think my parents, I mean, I got that one set when I was really young, but I think I was probably too young for it. You know, I left the bricks everywhere. Honestly, I get frustrated building Lego stuff. I add too much pressure, the whole thing crumbles in my hands. So maybe my parents saw me struggling with that at my age and was like, nope, no more Lego. No Fabuland. Again, these are little critters I would love to have all over my shelves. I mean, they had raccoons, cats, wolves, you name it. There was a little animal person. Speaking of animals, here's a cat. Now, number 4 on the list comes from a very controversial toy line, and that is Gobots. I say controversial because most people just write Gobots off as cheap knockoffs of Transformers, when in reality they were released first. Maybe they weren't as intricate, but they came all the way from Japan and they were made by Bandai. So, I mean, they have a great pedigree behind them. Maybe, like I said, they weren't as intricate as Transformers, but they were still very awesome, and they had really neat features that I'm sure I'll talk about in a later video. But this time around, we're talking about Zod. Not that Zod. I'm talking about the blue, beast-like robot that worked with Psykill and his group of baddies. In the cartoon, these were like the cannon fodder, if I remember correctly. But the toy was motorized and awesome. This evil, robotic beast would lurch forward and raise up on its back wheels to a standing position, and roar to a degree. What was really neat about it was, on his belly was a big red button, and you got this laser lance that you could give your Gobot heroes to combat this evil monster. If you hit that red thing with the laser lance, or your finger or pencil or anything else, it would drop down automatically, like you defeated it in combat. Of course, they're given much more personality in the cartoon than just the toy, because they could use their arms and chase down people, and they were huge. But the toy, to me, is a timeless classic that I would love to have, and I wish I had as a kid. Now, number 5 on the list is a biggin. This is one that I'm sure when I hunt for it, I will be totally devastated at how much it costs nowadays. But that is the Warlock Dragon from Black Star. Dubbed the Dragon Horse of Zagar, Warlock was Black Star's mount. He would fly into combat on this winged, awesome-looking dragon. What it lacks in posability, it makes up for with personality. It is a great design. And, I mean, the sad fact is, Black Star should have been much more popular than it was. Because, honestly, it came out right before He-Man. But the toys weren't really marketed until after He-Man made its meteoric rise to popularity. Because they were just trying to cash in. I mean, Galoob, who made the toys, I mean, they had a dodgy reputation and dodgy franchises that they tried to roll out. But what could have been? I mean, I loved the Black Star toys. I don't really remember the cartoon that much, but the toys, I remember seeing them everywhere growing up, especially in the early 80s. In the future, I plan on doing kind of a spin-off of this, of toys that I wish I still had, and believe me, there will be a few Black Star entries on those lists. But anyway, back to Warlock. With the size of the Black Star figures, this was a pretty big toy. And with it being just an awesome dragon, it could work on any toy line. He could be attacking stormtroopers while you're playing Star Wars, or Ninja Turtles could ride on its back, or heck, throw him and the other Black Star figures in the mix with He-Man. They could all be friends, and they could save the universe together. They could all be masters of the universe. Anyway, folks, that was just a quick list of 5 toys I wish I had as a kid. As you can see, they kind of span the gamut, from stuffed animals to action figures, from dragons to robots, and everything in between. I just love toys, and I have ever since I was born, probably. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes down below that YouTube is recommending, hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So, until next time, keep being rad and stay dorky.